Hi, everyone. Welcome. Again, we're going to let the room fill up. Well, while we do that, hey, Sarah Schilke, welcome. Randy, welcome back. Lynn, Hildy, Deborah, thanks for joining in. It's always great to see your name on the attendees. Jerry, welcome. John, Paige, welcome. Barbie, hello. Just going to give the room another couple of minutes. Zoom likes to let everybody in really nice and slow. So, okay. Hey, Nancy. Nancy, you're retiring. But it's always good to learn more about getting a job in the motorcycle industry. Okay. Welcome, Sean. Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. I am really pleased to be here with Jan Plessner. She has been a force in the motorcycle industry, and I'm going to let her tell her story. Now she's helping other people find their place in the motorcycle industry and the power sports world. And whether you are looking for a job or inside the power sports industry or not, she is the woman to talk to. And she's going to tell you all about finding the best job for you, whether or not it's in the industry. Thanks, Jan, for being with us.
You're welcome. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending where you are. I am going to look for my share screen button so that I can make sure you can see the screen. It's not coming up right now, and Alyssa, maybe you can give me an idea.
Should be at the bottom of your screen, in the bar at the bottom, big green button.
Oh, there it is. I minimized that window. There we go. Okay. How does that look? Can you see my presentation just fine?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. And there we go. How's
there
that?
we go.
Okay. So our topic today, landing your dream job in the motorcycle or power sports industry, but keep in mind, you can use this information for landing your job in any industry. These will apply to other industries as well. So I'm going to provide a number of hacks, and when a hack is coming up, I've got a little note on the screen to let you know, look out, here comes some great hacks for landing that successful career move and being successful. First of all, I'd like to give you a little bit of background on how I got to where I was. I've been in the industry for 30 years. I started when I was 7, of course. Spent about 23 years with Kawasaki, had a great time, worked in government relations and public relations, traveled all over the place, super fun. I spent 2 years with the Motorcycle Industry Council. I've been recruiting now for 7 years. And I've had my own company now, corporation, for the last 4 and a little bit more, called Action Recruiting. Here's my career path in 4 minutes or less, but don't time me. Recruiting is obviously my second career. I started out in a family with loving parents, tons of love. There were 3 of us. We rode bikes plenty. My parents had a tandem bike that we rode all the time and got into all kinds of trouble. But there were 3 rules never to be broken, and here they are. My parents said, stay away from guns. They're dangerous. We don't want to see you anywhere near a gun. Well, at press events, the editors loved shooting at the shooting range, so unfortunately for my parents, I had a lot of fun shooting mostly targets. They said, don't get a tattoo. You just don't want to go in that direction. And the 3rd rule was stay off motorcycles. They're really dangerous. So I pretty much failed on the motorcycle rule. You know, after joining Kawasaki, I was going to annual press intros, traveling all over the world and enjoying every model Kawasaki had. Parents were not stoked. You know, I'm a 1st-generation motorcyclist, so it was new to them as it was new to me, but there was no way I was going to stop riding. And I wanted to just take a brief break to explain that I think it's up to us to help introduce the next generation to motorcycling. So some of what I do, whether it's, you know, as part of my job or on my own time, is introduce as many people as I can to riding power sports or motorcycles. the picture of the older gentleman on the upper right, he was 99 years old. And although he wasn't going to become a rider, it was a dream for him to be on the back of a motorcycle before his life was over. And we made that dream happen. So I started with personal watercraft at Kawasaki. But before that, I watched On Any Sunday. My parents took us to that movie. I think my mom liked some of the actors in it. And little did they know that would get me hooked. And I had some neighbors that had mini bikes as well. Finished college, fell in love with renting a jet ski watercraft. About the same time, I bought a couple beaters that went, 35 miles an hour max back in the day when you could fall off and not get hurt. Then I sort of fell out of love working for my dad's company as a PR person, and applied with every watercraft OEM out there, all the different brands. And that was my dad's idea. Little did he know, he fueled that, and ended up with Kawasaki in December of '89. So we have to keep in mind, when one door closes, another opens, and it's so true. I see that happening every day. I had a great team at Kawasaki. I was a very grateful employee. I still stay in touch with a lot of those folks. I was an amazing 20 years, traveling domestically and overseas. And one of the reasons that I sort of negotiated an exit package was I saw a lack of upward mobility and support from marketing to more diverse customers. Our customer base was very, one-dimensional, and I felt it was so important to reach out to other demographics, and I kept hitting my head, on that ceiling. And it was sort of a message that maybe there was something else for me out there. So another door opened, got called by a recruiter, and he offered me a job. So I didn't even really know what recruiting was about, but it sounded interesting. And I was never a salesperson per se, but I kind of am now. So now I'm helping others grow their career when I, was kind of stuck for a while. And it's really been exciting. And I launched my own firm 3 years later. And 95% of my clients are in the motorcycle industry. So here we go. Land your dream job. These are the topics I will cover today, and I'll go through them really quickly, but I'm sure that I can get you notes if somebody would like the notes to this presentation. We'll go over resumes, LinkedIn, bucket list searches, networking, mentorships, and a little bit of myth busting. Resumes. Here's your first hack alert. Applicant tracking systems rely on your LinkedIn profile and your resume. If you're thinking resumes are so yesterday, you're so wrong. We're in 2020, but resumes are the standard, tool to get your information to a hiring manager. And it's really important that you make the resume the best you can. I'm scanning, anywhere from 50 to 100 either resumes or LinkedIn profiles a day. And I'll spend maybe 10 to 20 seconds per. And there are some that are interesting. I'll read it from top to bottom, and others are so painful that it just hurts to even look at them. So here are the specific hacks I want you to think about when you're working on your resume. Remove your street address. Nobody needs to Zillow you and find out what you paid for your house, where you live, and then go to Google Earth and look at your backyard and see how much space you have. There is no need to have your street address on a resume or any of your personal information that you share, in my opinion. Include city and state. If I look at a resume and there's no city or state, I have no idea where this person is, if they're even open to relocation, or if my role that I'm looking to fill is close to where they live. Make it easy to read and include plenty of white space. Keyword searches are something we rely on daily, so make sure you've got the right words in the resume. So if we do a keyword search, public relations manager or sales associate or Harley Davidson, pops up in our search. And make sure you spend the most time on your most recent roles, your current role, and then anything that's applicable or transferable to the job you're looking to nail. And less is often more. Use a shorter version for the first, swipe at somebody. And then when you go into an interview, you can take a much longer version. If you've got a longer career, 2 pages max. If you've only got a couple jobs, you could probably put it on 1 page. Once that hook is set, though, don't be afraid to bring more information. for your next meeting. Here is the most important resume hack out there. And you can see I've got like a tachometer up there as a picture. Needle movers. This is the biggest issue with almost every resume I see. People list their job responsibilities. Job responsibilities are boring to read, and you want the hiring manager to be with that resume for a while. So they want examples describing your results in detail. So basically it's examples of your performance metrics. Everybody's got them. So you grew this by this percent, you reduced this, percentage of cost over the past year. They're SMART goals basically that show your results and how you move the needle. I've been asked, what if I'm not a salesperson? I don't have those types of metrics to share. I was in PR and I didn't have sales figures, but I knew how many people were reading the articles or watching the videos we made. So, whether you're a dog groomer or a PR manager or a sales director, there are ways to describe how well you did your job. And that's what a performance metric is. Resumes should be 100% factual. If you're pushing things to the limit or enhancing things that really aren't accurate, that's a big problem. If my client finds, or I find, a mistruth on a resume, it's kind of a deal breaker. That says a lot about the person if they're willing to push that far. Make sure your resume is fact check friendly. Too many bells and whistles really jam up the automated capture programs that we use for resumes and LinkedIn profiles. So not so much for LinkedIn, but for resumes, if it's too, glammy and bells and whistles and graphs, it's going to mess things up. Keep it a little bit more simple. You can always grab your LinkedIn profile as a PDF if you're on deadline. We do that, or I do that with candidates all the time. If they don't have a resume and I need it like right now, I'll just grab a PDF, and there's a button to push on LinkedIn to grab someone's profile as a PDF. And minimize words. The eye gets, too overwhelmed with too much text. So if you're listing an email address and a phone number, don't put cell phone and then the number and then email and then your email. Just put the number in the email. We all know what that means. Oh, there's a subjective grading issue that I've been having lately. People are using this graph to show they grade themselves in different areas of expertise. That's completely subjective and not something I even spend time looking at because it's really not factual. It's your interpretation of yourself. So let's stick with the facts. Now we'll talk about LinkedIn. As you can see, 675 million users around the globe. Half of Americans are on LinkedIn, which is great for recruiters like me. And 40% of the people on LinkedIn access it daily. And I'm one of the 40%, of course. There's a special program, which is LinkedIn for recruiters. It's called Buying a Recruiter Seat. That means I have access to everybody on LinkedIn. I would say, 95% of the recruiters and hiring managers rely on it. Smaller companies, maybe not so much. It's a little pricey. It's between $5,000 and $10,000 a year, depending on how many seats your company or association can purchase. But again, it gives you the ability to see everyone and to in-mail everyone, which is how you'll receive unsolicited emails on LinkedIn. So candidate sourcing is where recruiters like myself or hiring managers look for candidates. Look at this, 75% for me anyway is off of LinkedIn. So how important is a good LinkedIn profile? Really important. I'm also working heavily on professional referrals. If Brittany calls me and says her friend Bob, is great at such and such, and he's looking for an opportunity in, Montana, that carries a lot of weight. So I'm always looking for personal referrals. So don't be afraid to have someone that you know and respect refer you for a position. And then a lot of internet research. You can find out a lot about people, of course, on the internet. So some more things about LinkedIn. Have a smiling headshot, for crying out loud. Don't put in a picture where you got the shoulder of somebody else in it, or no selfies if you can avoid it. Have something nice. And then if it's not in your headshot, at least on the billboard section, which is above the headshot, have a theme or have some product or have you standing by some product. Let people know what you're into. And when I look at someone's LinkedIn profile and see that there's nothing about motorcycling, it's really hard for me to understand why they're reaching out to me. When I go to their profile and I see a Pike right away, I'm like, oh, keeper, I got to read this person's, profile. They're one of us. So make sure you check your privacy settings as well. You can unfortunately have your settings set to a way that everyone can see all your connections, and you don't really want that. You don't want anyone kind of hitting on your connections. So make sure you go through the privacy settings and understand what your options are. And then there's also an opportunity to flip a switch that shows that you're open to the possibility of a new opportunity that only folks with recruiter seats can see, and that's very helpful. I definitely give high priority to those that let me know they're interested in making a move. Also on LinkedIn, make sure your current contact information, is up there. I'll find someone really great. I'll go to email them. We're connected, and then I see that the email is still to their last employer, or it's their work email, and I don't really bother people at work like that. So some people might, but I prefer to catch you on your own time. So make sure you've got current information up. Update your headline once in a while and have visual examples of your work on LinkedIn. If you're a writer or an event person, or you've gone on, interesting rides, put some of your material up there and make it exciting, because, LinkedIn is more than just the one-dimensional. You can share those types of things. And most importantly, hack, you've got to grow your LinkedIn network. When I was at Kawasaki, I rarely connected with people. I didn't understand the benefits, but anyone you connect with, you are now given the visibility to see who they are connected to. So your shared connections become visible to you, and your LinkedIn network will grow exponentially if you begin to connect with folks. But you can't just hit connect and blind connect with people. That doesn't work. You've always got to send a personalized invite, and I'll go into that in detail in a few minutes. Here are some other considerations and hacks. Don't give anyone your past earnings unless you want to do it. It may be illegal in your state. It's illegal in California, and it's illegal in other states too. What you've made in the past should have no bearing on what you're going to make in the future, or whether or not you will get the position. You can let people know your target salary range. I do ask for that, because if someone's looking to make $1 million and, my job is like 75K, then we don't need to, continue negotiating or talking. Letters of reference, still really helpful. I know it's kind of old school, but it's helpful. You can also get endorsements on LinkedIn. Professional references, presenting them proactively is something I do. It's kind of a strategy. I like to submit someone's resume with the references to show these are the people that will stand behind this person and be available on the telephone to talk to you. Just make sure they know, they're one of your references. Remove your graduation years, avoid emails with your birth year. I'm not seeing a lot of age discrimination. Nobody asks me to find somebody like in their 30s. We're looking for the best candidate for the position and the most, the best fit, basically the best experienced person. But just in case you come across somebody who thinks they want someone in a certain age range, age is a number, and as long as you're youthful and active and taking care of yourself, there should be no problem there in our industry. And go ahead and ditch the unprofessional emails. I love kitties at Yahoo. If you're really looking to grow your career, you might want to get, a boring email with your name and Gmail on it. One other thing, motorcycle industry jobs, hack alert, it's free to post your resume. You can also scan job posts for free. Companies pay for access to those resumes. Not just anybody can see your resume on motorcycle industry jobs. It's actually fairly expensive to get in there and have ongoing access to resumes. Hiring managers and recruiters, dealership GMs, dealership HR people, they've got, not DMs, I'm sorry, GMs, yeah. Hiring managers, recruiters, and industry professionals are all looking at motorcycle industry jobs for positions that are posted and to see candidates that are already in our industry. But you've got to understand that it's just a portion of the folks out there. It doesn't represent the whole industry, and it's only one resource for you. Don't count on it, to be the one thing you do. You've got to do more than just that. This is what I call a bucket list search now. If you're looking for an opportunity, you need to do a lot of research online. The last thing you want to do is send your resume and a cover letter out to positions that are posted. If that's your tact, you'll likely not find what you're looking for. You have to get ahead of the ball, and how you do that is, or ahead of the curve, I should say, build a list of all the things you love the most. For me, motorcycles, camping, and dogs, say. And then specific brands, Kawasaki, REI, pet product brands, industries you love, outdoor recreation, fitness, yoga. And then while you're searching, you start pulling up information from those companies and brands that you're passionate for. So you're kind of leading the way. You're kind of, the skipper, and you're going through and picking and choosing who you'd like to work for. And you're taking more control over the search, and in the end, who you may, end up working for. So as a side note, while I was looking for a new position, I applied to Kawasaki. I also reached out to the other OEMs that made personal watercraft at the time, including WetJet, which isn't around anymore. And I looked at professional sports teams. I loved, baseball, stick and ball sports, football. And then I looked at law enforcement agencies, because at one point I thought I might go in that direction, and I was bowling competitively. So I thought, I'll look in the bowling industry too. And I'm really glad I didn't end up in the bowling industry. Motorcycles are a lot more fun. So here's some hacks on networking in 2020. Industry shows have sort of been pushed forward. Local events, they're starting to happen again. I'm leaving them on the list because I think they're very relevant. And when you can safely go out and feel comfortable doing it, there is nothing better than a face-to-face communication with somebody who might be hiring, or they might know somebody who might be hiring. So don't overlook any event like that, a local race, conferences like this one online. Anytime you can build your network and meet people. On LinkedIn, the personal invitations only that I mentioned before, that's really important. And here's how you do it, because it'd be very time consuming to write a personal invite each time. Create a template in a document and create several of them for different types of folks, at different positions at companies, and you can cut and paste those in. It's character count restricted. I forget how many characters, maybe 200, and explain why you would like to connect. Be creative. Hi, John, I saw that you and I share our love for this. Or, hey, Fred, I've been using your brand for years, and, I really would like to connect with you to learn more about your company. If you blast invitations out, which some people do, you'll end up in what LinkedIn calls a penalty box, and then you won't be able to connect unless you have someone's email. And it's very hard to get out of that penalty box. And if you have someone's email, you really don't need LinkedIn. So the benefit of LinkedIn is getting connected first, then having their contact information, and then cultivating a relationship. Don't overlook Facebook communities either, because there are some pretty good Facebook communities out there now where you can start talking to folks and building those relationships on common interests. Mentorships, really important. Big hack alert here. Looking back on my 20 plus years at Kawasaki, one thing I think I could have done a little bit better is built some mentors. I had some, I got along with everyone. I went to company events, being the PR manager, everyone sort of knew who I was, but I didn't take the time to get to know folks at upper level leadership positions, not the way I should have. So if you have the opportunity to take a director or a VP out to lunch and just spend time talking, that can really help you down the road. I could have done it more, and these folks will take a stand for you, and they can reach people and change opinions of folks that you can't touch right now. So they'll reach people when you can't, and be sure to mentor others as well, and pay it forward when you can. And I think that really comes back to helping. And again, a mentor can be someone at your company, someone at a similar company, or someone outside of the industry that's just a strong professional and a good example for you to follow. what hiring managers look for. So needle movers, definitely needle movers, clean presentation on paper, date of employment, city and state of companies. If I can't look online, if I don't recognize the company or dealership or organization you've been with, I'll go online and look for them. But if you don't give me a city and state, it's much more difficult to find out exactly where you were. And I like to see the flow of your career. So I want to know if you bounce back and forth, coast to coast, or if you stayed in the same area. And make sure your LinkedIn profile is consistent with your resume. If I'm looking at your resume and I go, oh, this person looks really good, I go to the LinkedIn profile and I'm having trouble figuring out, is this the same person? This school is not listed and these jobs aren't there. And it doesn't have to be identical. That's not the point, but make sure that people looking at it that have your resume can determine, oh, same person, nice LinkedIn profile. If you're shooting for something that you don't have experience with, or it's not completely obvious to the person reading your resume, help them see it. So you have to spell it out and make it easy for them. And I can help people on the phone do that, but it's basically taking anything that's applicable to the job you're interested in or the company you're interested in and spell that out on your resume in a way where they can pick it up. And volunteer work does count. It doesn't matter that you didn't get paid. If you worked in the industry or volunteered at an event, or you're a track corner worker and your experience with motorcycle racing, make sure you include anything that's relatable to the position you're going for. When I applied at Kawasaki, I remember distinctively writing in my cover letter that I had recently bought a couple stand-up jet ski watercraft, and every weekend I'd go to my local lake and ride around and scream sing my favorite songs. I was so happy to be on the water. I think they figured out, like, this chick is really passionate, hey, maybe she can write as well, and we'll bring her in. So stand out, be original, and be creative. Myth busting. Am I too old? I just don't see that in our industry. Obviously you need to have a youthfulness about you. If you're negative all the time, you're unhappy, you're complaining a lot, that sounds old to me. If you're sounding like you have energy and you love what you're doing and you love the product and you communicate that to others, that's what really counts. It's that youthful lifestyle or optimism that's important. Confident, happy, open-minded, eager to learn. If you're one of those folks that say, I never did it that way and my way is better, probably going to be perceived as older or set in your ways. So keep that in mind. Are formal cover letters required? No, they're definitely not required. And I wouldn't even recommend using one unless it's very personal and customized to you and the company you're applying to. So if you put something in, dear sir, madam, I think I would be a terrific asset to your organization. Don't even waste your time. When I even read like the first 2 lines of a cover letter, it's like, psh, it's gone. When it's one of those templates, it doesn't mean anything. If you're going to write one, make it mean something, and then I'll read it from top to bottom. Should you connect with someone on LinkedIn that you don't know? Absolutely. With a personalized invite, I rarely get declined. Of course, I'm a recruiter, so if people are interested in what I have to say, or if I'm trying to tell them, about a position, they respond. But even people that are on the fringe of our industry respond with a personalized invitation. It's hard not to when someone takes the time to tie it together. Are some people creepy or inappropriate on LinkedIn? Yes, only a couple though in 7 years, so it doesn't happen very often. And do recruiters charge candidates for their services? If you have a recruiter asking you for money, then they're not really a recruiter with integrity, because maybe resume writing, you can pay for your resume to be rewritten or to be, worked on, but a recruiter shouldn't be charging you to find you or look for a position or help you get in with a company. Almost the last slide. Don't give up on your dream. It definitely takes time. So you've got to stick with it for a while, and career dreams do come true. And anybody who wants more information or want to talk about motorcycles, or you're thinking about a career change, or anything that I've covered, feel free to contact me. And I wanted to thank Lisa and Brittany for putting on a fantastic presentation. I'm getting something out of every single presentation, and I hope everyone is as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jan. Really, really appreciate your time with us. And I always learn something every time I listen to you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For the comprehensive interview. Go ahead and unshare your screen. And I'm going to pass along some questions.
Okay.
Let's see. The first one is, what's the craziest thing you've seen on a resume?
Oh, wow. The craziest thing. Crazy. I mean, inappropriate. From time to time, it feels like people are listing some inappropriate experience. It's not really crazy. On LinkedIn, I see some very inappropriate images. Now, I don't really go to social media, but a lot of hiring managers do, and you can count on a background check to go check out your Facebook. Just make sure, there isn't anything up there that, your mom would get offended by, or, a neighbor, especially if you're looking to make a jump in your career. Just, keep it PG-13. Most people, have a little bit of a thick skin, but you just don't want to make it too edgy. I would keep politics obviously out of it, religion, kind of on the sideline, unless that's something that you want to make sure is something that's, believed or followed by the company you're going with. But keep it focused on your career and all you've done, during your career.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. I have another question. If someone has photography skills, should they put a photo on their resume or a link to where folks can see more of their photos?
Absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily put a picture of yourself on your resume. I see that from time to time, and it doesn't offend me, but it is a little unusual. Definitely have an online portfolio though, and make sure in your cover letter you refer to it, with the link. And when you're emailing, obviously make those links hyperlinks so I can click right on it and find it. But you definitely want to show your experience and the materials that, you've worked on and the best of your work. That's great.
Here's a great question from an anonymous viewer. Should they ride to an interview, or should they keep their outfit professional?
Most of the motorcycle industry is either business casual now or Friday casual. At Kawasaki, soon after I left, every day became Friday casual, as long as your jeans weren't tattered or ripped. My first, 5 or 10 years at Kawasaki, I was actually wearing suits and heels, which it's really hard to believe. But I would try to do both. I would try to have something on nice. I bring a small hair dryer and a brush with me, and head to the restroom and fix my, hair if it's out of whack, which it usually is after I wear a helmet. But you can switch your shoes too. But if you can do both, I would do it. If you're worried about not looking great after you get off the bike, then just make sure they know you ride and talk about the motorcycles you love during your interview.
Okay, great. Good advice. Let's see. Where are you seeing the most jobs becoming available since COVID-19 issues?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Personally, when the whole COVID thing came around, I was sort of in shock. I mean, it caught me, and I think everyone else, really off guard. So things sort of stopped for a few weeks. After a few weeks, it became apparent that business was still happening, just at a different level. Dealerships are going crazy right now. If you haven't heard, especially power sports stores are selling out with many of their products, and they're pushing up 2021 production now to get them out to customers. The first dealership that gets them out soon is really going to benefit. So dealerships are going off the hook right now, especially in the Southeast, along the West Coast, a little bit slow in the Midwest, but everywhere else it really feels like it's full speed ahead. Other organizations are taking a little bit longer because folks aren't back in the offices yet. But amazingly enough, people can get their work done, in their home office. I think we're going to see a lot more opportunity for that too.
Interesting. So would it make sense for someone to put on their resume that they have a home office experience, or they have a home office already set up, and what kind of distractions they have at home?
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't put it on my resume, but I would in either a cover letter and a first conversation, let them know that you're open to a remote or a shared location, kind of half and half, because that's something that is very real now. And we just don't know, how long it's going to, go in that direction. But letting people know that you're open to a home office environment. I'm seeing more and more companies bring people in that don't live in the city where they're headquartered, but they're coming in once a month or every other week for a couple days. It just depends on the organization. But let people know you're open to it for sure.
Okay. Is that working from home trend since COVID-19?
I'm definitely seeing some more of it now, right? For instance, at Kawasaki, it was really hard to negotiate a work from home opportunity. And now a lot of the a lot of the employees are still working from home. They're going back kind of on an as needed basis, and they may be opening up to some more employees later this month, but it's very common now for companies to say, go ahead and take your time. We're not going to rush things back now. If you don't need to be here, keep doing what you're doing. And companies are having their best numbers, with almost everyone working at home. It's amazing.
Huh. And so, what does the interview process look like in the COVID-19 era?
Yeah, that's definitely changed. Before, I was flying candidates in after a telephone interview for a face-to-face with the company. Now the second interview is definitely on Zoom. People just aren't comfortable, I don't think yet, jumping on airplanes and being around, so many people just yet. So the Zoom calls are working out really well. But I'll tell you, that doesn't give you a feeling for the community or what kind of topography is around, that city or market if you've never been there before. So I've got employees with my clients doing FaceTime calls with my candidates, showing them, for instance, the dealership shop, or going out to some areas around the community and just giving them, some insight on what they can expect, or even showing them some apartments that are available, anything that can help the candidate feel more comfortable before they pull the trigger on a new position. Do whatever you can to look and feel the community as much as you can.
Okay. And what advice do you give to folks interviewing over Zoom? Like, do they need to be aware of the backgrounds, what they wear? Like, what's important in a Zoom interview?
Yeah, that's really important. So after I think my first or second professional or, business related Zoom, I've done it before with family, and, who cares what's running around in the background? You can Google, online top 10 preparations, for your next business Zoom call. There are so many easy things you can do. And a lot of it has to do with lighting, minimizing distractions, behind you, making sure you're in an area where you won't be disturbed, turning off your phone and turning off ringers, and making sure that you're present for the call. Because if you're fidgeting too much, I know I'm in a chair that swivels, and I've been catching myself because if I swivel a little bit, I don't want you to think that I'm, moving around too much. Also, make sure you have a profile picture set up so when you do need to leave or have a drink, which I wasn't using today, your profile picture can go up for a few minutes or a few seconds so that you can take a drink. But look online, there are a lot of ways to improve your presence on Zoom.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Minna asks, how far back do you recommend to list your work experiences, especially for folks who have been in the workforce for a long time?
Yeah, Minna, good question. I didn't cover that, but it applies to almost all of us. So for myself, I'll use myself as an example. I have maybe 4 positions in the power sports industry, and then before that, I worked in bowling centers. So I wouldn't put anything on there that goes back in before your current career, unless it's applicable. or there are areas of that job, specific things that apply to what you're looking for. You don't have to necessarily leave it off the resume though. You can put additional employment and then just one line for each of those other positions if you think they might have some questions about those roles as well. But you don't want to go back too far, but obviously you don't want to leave things out and have it be interpreted as that you're hiding something, or, you know, you didn't want to share your true, you know, career path. Did that make sense, Alyssa?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Another question is, I'm a longtime motorcycle mechanic, 14 years. What ways can I stand out and get the pay I deserve?
Call me. Let me tell you, call me. I'll help you get what you deserve. Technicians in our industry are really, really hard to find, the good ones. And that's because in the recession back in 2008, 2009, we lost a ton of technicians to other industries. I think they were the first to go. And then a lot of them didn't come back. It's strange. Some dealerships understand how important it is to have a great technician on board, and they pay really well. Others don't seem to get it, and they don't pay very well. So you've got to be in a state, in a market that's busy, you know, most of the year, and you can make up to 6 figures. It's totally doable, but you might not be looking in the right place. But I definitely think a recruiter like me could help you find a great home if you're willing to, you know, potentially make a move, depending on where you're located.
So that sounds like a great advantage of using a recruiter over a website, Indeed.com, or just something you get out of the local newspaper. Can you talk
Right.
a little bit more about that are benefits of working through a recruiter?
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, different recruiters are different, but I can speak for what I do. I don't just, you know, some recruiters, they've got a position they're trying to fill. They talk to you and you're either a yay or a nay. Oh, you'd be good for this. Would you like to be presented? Or, sorry, you don't qualify. Goodbye. That's not how I work. I spend significant time with every candidate I talk to because I may not have the position right now, but something may come up, or you might be so valuable and needed out there that I will proactively hunt for a job for you to look at. So a good recruiter will stick with you and help you find something. I'm working with a dozen people right now, proactively helping them sort of work through their bucket list. And if you give me, for instance, 10 companies you're interested in, I guarantee you I know someone at each company if they're in our industry, because I've been, you know, growing my network very aggressively for 7 years. And then I had one when I left Kawasaki as well. And that helped kick me off, you know, into recruiting. But definitely you want someone who's bringing your interest to the top of the pile. I used to post on Indeed and I'd get hundreds of responses, and rarely did one person qualify. A recruiter basically opens the door of the, you know, dealership or organization and sets your information on top of the pile. I never submit anyone that I don't think is capable of doing the job. And, you know, I'll submit 3 people and one of them usually gets, you know, an offer. So definitely work with a recruiter if you can.
Okay. What advice would you give to somebody who hasn't, who really wants to work in the motorcycle industry but hasn't? Like, how does that go?
Yeah. So think about volunteering if you can, being part of a local club. Walk into a dealership and see if they need help, even if it's 1 day a week. Being out on the floor and understanding that, you know, front line of where the customers go, super valuable. I never actually worked in a dealership, but a lot of people in our industry started there. And it's almost like cutting your teeth in our industry if you've got some experience. And if not working for pay, volunteering some time to help at events, to be around, you know, your people, our people in the industry, because everyone's so connected with everyone else these days that, you know, you let people know you're looking for something, and a lot of people that work in our industry go to those events as well. So I would say get busy as a volunteer, attend as many of the shows as you can, AIM Expo, the International Motorcycle Shows, any regional shows that you can go to, Sand Expo, you know, if you like side-by-sides as opposed to street riding, dirt bike events, walk the pits, a lot of the employees are in the pit. So try to find where those folks are and then start figuring out how what you're doing now can be applied to what you're looking to do. There's got to be a way to draw some commonalities, and it's more difficult, but it's possible to do it.
That's cool. That's great advice. I know myself, I actually parlayed my experience inside the motorcycle industry to a position outside the industry, and I had the great fortune of working in Africa for 2 years, leading conservation expeditions. And it's because I used my experience as a tour guide and keeping people safe. That's what I used to then apply for the job, and I got it. So
that's amazing. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Is there a limit to, all the different jobs that are in the industry? There's no, I mean, the list is huge. So don't just think retail, don't just think wholesale, don't just think major OEM. There's all different entry points. There's consultants that work in the industry. There's aftermarket folks. There's, event companies. There's consultants, for different things. There's PR agencies and ad agencies and website agencies, and the support groups and organizations that keep our industry going is very deep. And maybe you haven't thought of all those areas. Technically, I worked for the PR agency for Kawasaki for the first year. And then I became a full-time Kawasaki employee, but I was already based at Kawasaki. And that happens a lot. You test the waters, they test the waters with you, and then you become that full-fledged employee. So keep an eye out for other entry points as well.
cool. I know that a lot of dealerships need like finance people, for instance, or bookkeepers. And I mean that for those types of positions, do you really need experience inside the motorcycle industry to be successful?
Not necessarily. It helps if you're an enthusiast though, because you're kind of a fish out of water if you go into a dealership and you're looking around and what's that, and what's that. But if you're passionate about motorcycling, but you're a comptroller, man, you can get a job in our industry because every dealership and every dealership group has a controller or a comptroller or a high level accounting or finance person. So you definitely can be in our industry even though you haven't worked in the industry and your job right now has nothing to do with the industry. In fact, I think we're better for bringing in fresh folks from outside the industry because the industry is so small that we're kind of in like the spin cycle and you're always kind of bumping into the same people a lot. So it's nice that new people come into the industry.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized that we're almost out of time. I have two more quick questions for you.
Okay.
Do you recruit for contract only jobs in addition to employment opportunities?
I see. So
like
if someone's going to be like an independent contractor?
Yeah.
Yes. I do a lot of dealership work, and most dealerships at this point are not doing contract work. However, with how things have changed, they're more open to a contractor shift to a full-time employee opportunity. But some of the organizations in our industry, definitely, I've done some work for contract work. The only hard part is you don't tend to get your best candidates because it's harder to leave a full-time position with benefits to go to a contract 1099 role, without benefits for some people. But it's definitely a possibility, and you can look for that.
Okay, great, thanks. And the last question is, what are the better paying jobs in the industry beyond dealerships?
Oh gosh, it just goes up the ladder. The more people you're responsible for and the more people you're managing and the more people you're touching with your efforts and your programs, the more you'll probably make. There's everything from assistant managers and supervisors on up to VPs and presidents. So it's pretty common to other industries, more responsibility, more money. However, keep in mind that not everybody's looking to grow to the top, and our industry pay is skewed a little lower because we have that sunshine tax, for instance, in California. Then there's the fun tax. It is a fun industry to be in, so they don't have to pay the same amount that what I call a grown-up job or industry like pharmaceuticals or something like that. But definitely you can make some good money and a great living in our industry as long as you keep growing your career and moving up when you can.
Okay, that's great to hear. I just wanted to read one of the comments in the chat from David Hall, and he said, "Thanks for giving all this good info. It's hard to make a living doing something you're passionate about. You're opening up the door for all of us." So,
Yep.
thank
That's
you so
great.
much. If you would
Yeah.
tell us how people can get in touch with you, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. So LinkedIn is one way. If you just type in my name, I'm happily the only Jan Plessner, I guess, who's on LinkedIn, which is nice. It's not the case for, the Sally Smiths out there. And the other way would be through my website, actionrecruiting.com. Actually, it's spactionrecruiting.com or action.com, or my phone number, 949-466-0086. If you Google me, I'm sure one of those three will come up.
Okay. And for the folks that are listening, I can also put you in touch. So email Brittany or Elisa at revtalks.com, and we'll hook you up.
Right. And I do want to talk to that technician too. I'm going to talk to you. So make sure you get in touch with me and let me know you're the guy or gal.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jan, for your time and for all you do for all of us in the industry. And it's been great talking to you.
You're welcome. It's been great. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone hang on. In 8 minutes, we'll be starting our next Rev Talk, which is Creating a Culture of Safety, Total Control by Lee Parks. He's awesome. You don't want to miss Lee because he's highly entertaining and a great presenter. So see you in a few minutes. Bye now.